My name is Rory Houlihan and I ran for U.S. Senate last spring 2016 to stop the ticking time bombs so I could put our economy on track for a bright new day instead of all things ending. Now running for KYH 73 in 2018, but I still need to tell. So let me educate you on the ticking time bombs and give you the rest of the story. Part 16, symbiotic versus predator to prey relationships. Seems like a long time ago. Now, back in my 3CP closed carbon cycle process days, when I was actively looking into microbiology problems. One of them was terraforming eastern Kentucky's open pit mountaintop mining areas. I was looking at ways to reforest those areas. The problem is not as straightforward as one might think. Because of the high alkalinity of the fill rocks, root burning, I started by reading about the transition going on at Mount St. Helens after the volcano erupted. How do you speed up the process going on at Mount St. Helens? One of the first plants to colonize the barren soil is lichens. Lichens are the Earth's first land plants. Lichens and mosses are not just one plant, they are a team of algae and fungus that have combined to form a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic means working together. There are like 14,432 different types of lichens across the world. Each donates to each other. The fungus has the ability to break down inorganic material, rock, and algae. Okay, the algae donates energy and the ability to collect carbon and nitrogen. Together, they create structures that can hold water, H2O. As much as 90% of the lichen's mass can be water. I was lucky to be looking when I was. In 2006, the world lichen experts were meeting in England, and their combined papers in 2008 became a book on lichens. I asked the UK um, library to see if they could give me a copy. I also looked for research being done in Kentucky on lichens. What you may not know is that Kentucky, as a state, has one of the most biodiverse zones in the country. We have some 230 different species of trees alone in Kentucky. Many states are lucky to have five, if that. Traveling all over the state of Kentucky in 2016 while running for the U.S. Senate, I was fortunate to see that great diversity of not only folks, but also of flora and fauna. Kentucky is so many ways a real gem of a state. Writings on Kentucky's lichens is sparse, but if you know where to find, you can. I love the top floors of college libraries. That is where colleges generally put their doctoral papers. The 2 years of life of a student. I often find myself thinking like a professor going over how complete or incomplete the student's research or if there were any flaws in the research. You can make a game of it. Most of the newest research are locked up in these papers. You have their names for future contact, what a decade can do. Our wired and connected revolution makes tracking down folks so much easier today compared to even a decade ago. There is a real gamble today to reaching out to companies. I have started work on quite a few concepts, especially open source. Reached out to a person or to a company only to have them cut off my next communication or be informed that this idea is now under patent and to cease my research and development. Of course, by the secretary on the phone. Hmm. First to file gives every incentive to jump your claim, to steal and take, and little incentive to cooperate. and coordinate in development of an with an independent like me. At least with first to develop, paid to develop to sell. But contacting a person who did the original research can at least give them a leg up for them to, if not for you. And they started the research. I have contacted the NSF, National Science Foundation, on their research and shared, which has led to breakthroughs for them. And they have reciprocated by offering grants to me. And they still inform me of their programs. But I would have to work with an NSF affiliate college, none nearby. Back to lichens. Lichens are the team players of the micro world. They also like to form symbiotic relationships with any host plants they live on, such as trees. The word symbiotic means working together. Lichens' ability to trap and store water allows lichens to share their water and nutrients with a host like trees. Many trees couldn't grow as tall as they do without lichens. Help. Reading about lichens nature as nature's team player gave me an idea. Could lichens be used to create bioarmor for plants against parasites and pests? Could lichens' ability to transform rock into soil be used to also provide nutrients to young trees? Back to my study of genetics. See, Monsanto uses genetics to manipulate just one plant. In other words, Monsanto uses a 1x, one plant, times X amount of manipulations. Solution set. A bioteam has A, B, C, D times X. Multiple plants and microbes times their cumulative X manipulation solution set. A far more diverse genetic solution possibility. Now, what I have learned about lichens have to do with relationships. Everything, folks. Do you know that there is a lichen that has a lifespan of 100 years in the Arctic? A, a life form made of single cell organisms, not only living in the extreme harsh conditions of the Arctic, but for 100 years? What a testimony to the power of working together or the 50-50 relationship. The absolute fact is that no corporation or business can grow without people working together. No government can long survive without people working together. No family, community, church, or society can exist without people working together. Working together is a fundamental. In 1974, philosophy Who Needs It? The US cadets learned about Russian born Ayn Rand's philosophy, jokingly said she was against Immanuel rights with duties. In other words, symbiotic relationships. That her philosophy is rights had no duties, except in defending a country. Rah rah. I am for predator to prey relationships, which only serves the bad guys and the powerful, except when it comes to you. You good folks here, your sons and daughters' right to defend and die for this predator to prey relationship. Do you think military cadets are taught philosophy? Don't think so. In her book, The Virtue of Selfishness, Russian born Ayn Rand basically touts the value of parasite and predator to prey relationship. I will give her this. The predator does receive the greatest benefit from. The predator does get 100% of the benefit, and the prey gets none. In the virtue of selfishness, we get the phrase greed is good. But how long will the predator live? The only way any predator can live is when it has far more prey than it, or that the prey has a greater ability to out-reproduce its own destruction. Change that, and both the prey and the predator go extinct, and in this order. As an economist, I understand how predator to prey and symbiotic relationships affect our economy. Back to killers and murderers. Killers care, murderers don't. Elk businesses, inferior goods game, are or become more and more parasitic in their nature until they are predator to prey. As they become, we see a king of the hill game going on inside and outside the corporation. Economists call this a fancy name, heteroscedastic, for two-place or multi-place growth, which reflects the image of growth going on in that business, in that country, or in that society. We see a carving out of the middle income folks, the middle class, more and more, with growth only at the very top and at the very bottom. Remember, elk businesses must either create or chase poverty. They create a world in which only the very powerful few to one, the haves, rights with no duties, and the rest don't, the have-nots. Economists have a name for this type of economy, oligarchical, because of the type of business environment going on. The economists have another name for this type of economic and political system too, fascist. I have been watching the growing heteroscedastic growth occur with a few respites from the 1980s and when I was first studied when I first studied economics. On page 106 of Elizabeth Warren's book, This Is Our Fight, there is a graph of distribution of income from 1935 to 1980, when our economy was run by symbiotic progressive principles. During this period, we had the greatest economic growth in U.S. history, and the split was 70% to the 90% of the population, bottom 90%, and 30% to the top 10% income. Then on page 146 of Elizabeth Warren's book, This Is Our Fight Again, shows us the same distribution from 1980 to 2015, when our economy was run by the predator to prey conservative principles. During this period, we had stagflation, and economic growth was basically only through population growth. The split during this period was the bottom 90% of the US population received basically nothing, zero, zip, and the top 10% basically received everything, 100% of the new income generated from our economy. Add in shake the tree to shake out the widows and the weak, to take boom bust business cycles, and we also see a constant carving out of the US middle income folks, being thrown constantly into more and more poverty, so the wealthy can get more and more bargains. A highway to hell for the hardworking. If you like what you hear, would you do me a favor and subscribe to my Rory for Us YouTube.com channel? You have a good and blessed day, folks.